Hey, this is Oren Zucker, and on behalf of Dan Eberts, we're excited to share the first tutorial for our latest script, Vybe. It's a unique, highly customizable procedural animator driven by waveforms. We've actually been tinkering with Vybe for a few years now, and over that time it's developed into a synthesizer-inspired, waveform-driven, compounding animation tool that's capable of generating anything from very basic to surprisingly complex and organic motion. One of its most unique features is that Vybe builds upon existing Vybe expressions, so you can layer them over each other and combine waves. It's a great way to create extreme or subtle differences in motion when working with one layer or 100. As I make this tutorial, I'm just scratching the surface of what Vybe can do with motion graphics. I'll try to keep the FAQ page updated with newly discovered tips, tricks, and observations, so please check back often. Alright, let's get into it. Vybe is super easy to explain how to use, but what you do with it, well, that's a longer tutorial because it's kind of endless. Let's go through a simple build to start off. Start with a multi-layered comp and using the default oscillate preset, right or X selected as the axis, applied to all the layers at the current time. You get what you might expect, all the layers oscillating to the right over 4 seconds. It's really not all that interesting. Let's keep going. We'll clean that and now start adding some variables. I'll pick an axis of random X, and for trigger, select random. This means all the layers will be triggered randomly, moving either to the left or to the right. And click Vybe. And you can see right away it's a lot more interesting. Now let's pick a rotation preset, change the axis, and select target random, which means it'll just randomly select layers, and click Vybe again. You can see how easily it is to build complex animations really quickly with just a couple selections. Once you click Vybe, most of the UI settings are changeable in the effects controls. You can disable the expression or change pretty much everything about it, from the wave type to the interpolation to adding a random wiggle to each layer. For every application of Vybe, a new set of effects controls, one for the wave and the other for the timing, are placed on that layer. Full disclosure, I'm trying out an AI clone of my voice for this next section, so some parts might sound a bit funky. When you click Vybe, an expression is placed on either the position or rotation transform. Click it again and a second one is added onto it. If it's the same settings, it results in essentially a stronger Vybe. If the settings are changed, well, things get interesting. I'll try to break down the different parts of this script in more detail, and how the features interact to help give you a better understanding of how the system works. With a few exceptions, every dropdown in the UI contains two basic types of settings, constant and variable. In general, constant is the top section of each dropdown, the variable is the bottom section. Presets are split into 3 sections: position, rotation, and transitions. Since Vybe operates on position or rotation transforms, the axis dropdown is shared between the two. That's why it's labeled the way it is. Trigger dictates the timing of the Vybes. A few things I'd like to point out. Current time will trigger a single iteration of Vybe at the current time indicator. Same holds true for offset and random offset. Continuous is self-explanatory, but repeat and random need to take the life setting into account. If the min or max setting isn't at least as long as the life setting, then the cycle of the wave will be interrupted, and you'll get a glitch at the point Vybe repeats. Next we'll go over markers. Using markers to trigger Vybes gives you the most control over the timing of your motion graphics. After you generate your animation, you can add, subtract, or move Vybes very easily by just manipulating the markers. There's no need to rebuild. For this demo, I'll use Element 3D with 5 nulls, one for each group, and a marker layer created by one of our other scripts, Beatnik, to drive this animation. There are 3 marker options to pick from. The top one, All Markers, triggers every layer at each marker, so they all animate at the same time. Marker Mix randomly skips between 1 and 5 markers. This will give you the most variety in your movement timing. And Marker Sequence assigns an individual marker to each layer in the order they appear in the layer stack. A few points about working with markers. All the marker triggers need a layer to reference. So once you select one, the marker layer box is activated to the far right of the UI. It will automatically select the top layer in the comp. If your marker layer isn't the top layer, every time you rebuild, you'll have to refresh the list and reselect. So I'd advise you to always put the marker layer at the top of the layer stack, and you won't have to worry about it again. Here's a few experiments using markers. This first one uses 4 individual audio marker layers to trigger each part of this element animation. And these next couple tests use just one marker layer and the marker mix setting to randomly trigger Vybe. The left side of the UI is the what, where, and when of Vybe. The right side is the how. The way these dropdowns interact gives the motion its character. When you select a preset, this section is primarily what it's setting. There are 6 basic waveforms to choose from, plus an option for none. Except for chaos, all waveforms start and stop at the same position. The none option is unique. It essentially allows Vybe to function as a straightforward, simple animator. Once the build is complete, you can switch waveforms in the effects control panel. This is useful if you want to experiment or adjust for unexpected results. The random option assigns a waveform to each layer, excluding chaos, square, and none. The random groupings combine waves with similar characteristics. Freak or frequency refers to the number of waves that occur in 1 second. If the frequency is less than 1, extend the life setting beyond 1 second, or the wave cycle might get interrupted and won't end where it started, potentially causing a jump in looping animations. Life defines how long a single wave is active. It works closely with frequency. For example, if the frequency is 3 and the life is 3 seconds, a single iteration of the wave will consist of 9 waves occurring over those 3 seconds. Unlike other settings, life cannot be increased in the effects control panel after the build. However, you can shorten it by adjusting the attack and decay times. The strength dropdown adjusts how far a layer moves or how much it rotates. For position presets, strength depends on the width of the raster. Larger rasters result in greater movement. For rotations, the spins are hardwired into Vybe. Strength settings can be easily adjusted in the wave effect control panel. Specific ratios and rotations are detailed in the FAQ and user manual if you need precise numbers. The envelope encompasses 3 key settings: attack, decay, and influence. The first 2 dictate the interpolation of the wave. The total time of both of these comprise the life of the wave, but exactly how they're divided up within the life is the influence. For example, all 3 of these share the exact same settings, only the influence is different. All these settings interact with one another, sometimes leading to predictable results and sometimes surprising outcomes. For example, eases can potentially affect the strength setting, so the greater the ease you select, the lower the strength and the faster the wave will appear to move to compensate for the time it will take to accommodate the ease. To get a feel for how everything works together, experiment with smaller projects before tackling larger animations. These controls are fundamental to how the layers move and respond. When you click Vybe, it will place an adjustment layer between each layer in the build. This will eliminate any unusual overlapping problems that After Effects sometimes has an issue within 3D space. You can still turn them off or rearrange your layer order when needed. The Clean button wipes out all the Vybe expressions from your comp. It's a total restart. Locking some of the layers won't stop them from getting cleaned. The only way to do that is to pre-comp them. If you've ever rotated anything, you know the location of the anchor point can make a huge difference. So, we added a little tool to help move it around. Save and Load will save an XML file of the current state of the UI. You can save them anywhere you want. There's no special place for them. Keep in mind that the name of the original preset won't change when you load it back in. So that, in a nutshell, is Vybe. We still have a lot to learn about our script. Please keep checking the FAQs. We'll update it as we discover more about it. From Dan Eberts, I'm Warren Zucker, and thanks for watching.